As Laura stepped out of the dim motel room, the setting sun dipped behind the horizon, washing the sky in fading strokes of amber and gold. She drew her coat tighter against the cool breeze, her chest heavy with exhaustion and remorse. The plan had been simple: sneak away from her husband, Mark, for a few hours under the pretense of a work meeting and return home before dinner as if nothing had happened. But the hours had stretched longer than she expected, and now all she wanted was to slip back unnoticed. When she entered the motel's parking lot, a wave of dread struck her. Her car was gone. Her pulse quickened as her gaze darted across the rows of vehicles, desperate to spot the familiar shape of her sedan. After circling the lot again and again, the truth struck like a lightning bolt. The car had been stolen. Her trembling hands fumbled for her phone as she called the police to report the theft. She forced her voice into the calm tone of an innocent victim, though inside, her nerves screamed. A dark thought whispered in the back of her mind. Maybe this wasn't just bad luck. Maybe it was karma catching up far too soon. Flagging down a taxi, Laura sat silently in the back seat, the hum of the engine the only sound. Her mind replayed every deception from that day. The lie about the meeting, the feigned professionalism, the message she'd sent, "Don't wait up, I'll be late." Each memory pressed down on her like a weight she could barely carry. But what terrified her most was the idea of going home without her car. Mark was sharp and he noticed everything. And lately he had grown distant, more observant than she'd liked. When Laura finally arrived home, the house was shrouded in darkness. The porch light, which Mark always left on when she came home late, was off. That small detail made her stomach twist. She unlocked the door and stepped inside, greeted by an eerie stillness that made the air feel heavier. "Mark?" she called softly, setting her purse on the counter. Only silence answered. As she walked through the hallway, a chill crept up her spine. The walls, once lined with framed photos, were bare. The wedding portrait that had hung proudly near the stairs was gone. Panic clawed at her chest. She rushed through the house, opening drawers and closets. Mark's clothes, his watch, even that old leather jacket he never wore. All missing. Then came the realization, crashing over her like a storm. He was gone. On the dining table rested an envelope with her name written neatly across the front. Her fingers shook as she tore it open. Inside lay her car key and a folded letter. Her stomach knotted with dread, but she forced herself to read. "Laura, I know everything. The motel, the lies, the man you thought I'd never discover. You weren't as careful as you believed. The GPS in your car told me exactly where you went today. I had it towed while you were inside that room. Consider this my farewell." Tears blurred her vision as she continued reading, Mark's calm, steady handwriting slicing through her like a blade. "I didn't want a scene. I just needed you to know that I deserved honesty. Your car is safe at your mother's. Pick it up when you're ready to face her. Or yourself." The letter slipped from her trembling hands as sobs welled up in her chest. It wasn't just the exposure that hurt. It was his quiet, controlled pain. There was no rage, no accusations. Just finality. Desperate, she rushed to their bedroom, hoping against reason that he might still be there. But the emptiness greeted her instead. The closet stood half open, one side barren. On his pillow rested his wedding ring, a single, silent symbol of goodbye. Laura collapsed to her knees, clutching the ring as tears streamed down her face. For the first time, she understood that losing her car meant nothing compared to losing the man who had loved her despite her flaws. The guilt she'd buried so deeply now rose to the surface, suffocating her with its truth, wandering into the living room. She felt the void that lingered in every corner. The warmth that once filled the house had vanished. Every shadow whispered Mark's absence. Every memory burned with regret. That night, she sat by the window, the letter trembling in her hands as she reread it over and over. There was no anger between the lines, only peace and finality. He had freed himself from her betrayal, and that freedom was her eternal punishment. Outside, life continued as usual. Cars passed, the world moved on. But Laura remained frozen, trapped in her own silence. The man she thought she could deceive had been stronger than she ever knew. Her car might wait at her mother's house, but her marriage, her peace, and her future were lost forever. As the night deepened, she finally understood the cruelest truth. The real loss wasn't of things, but of love, trust, and the fragments of herself that she could never reclaim.